Well, I caught the terminal disease when I was about 8 years old. My grandmother used to take us to her friend's house down in Lancaster, Ohio in the country. And they were up in the barn. I found a 1914 Saxon Roadster with chicken stuff all over it and hay, and it was a mess. And I'd sit in that car for hours until they drug me out of it. And I'm sure that's the car that gave me the disease. And it's down in the bottom of the barn right now, because I found it 20, 30, 40 years later. I found it and bought it. It's a nothing car, but it's a cute little thing. And then when I was 12, I kept bugging my dad Dad, did you find any old cars today? Did you find? He was a traveling salesman. And one day he came home and said, yeah, I found there's an old Packard in a field. The guy said I could buy it. I said, well, how much do you want for it? He said, 35 bucks. And I said, well, I got 20 out of my paper route. And he said, okay, I'll give you 15 for your birthday. So I got miraculously sick that day when the car was going to arrive with a wrecker. I got 148-degree temperature because I'd held the thermometer under the hot water thinking I'll fool Mom on this one. So she said, oh, you are really ill. You have to stay home from school today. And about 11:20, I can remember to this day, the wrecker brings up that 29 Packard coupe. And I was miraculously cured. My temperature went to normal, and so I was able to go out and play with the car. My dad made me sell that car to the junkyard in Columbus, Ohio. When we moved from Columbus, Ohio to Indianapolis, we got $35 for it. So I've been trying to make up for it ever since. You look for an unmolested car, one that hasn't been messed with. A lot of cars by now, because collectors have been doing this for 50 years, they're called bitses. You can get a car that's a bit of this and a bit of that and a bit of this, and they put it together and make a car out of it. And it looks great. It's a wonderful looking car, but it's not real. It's not like it was when it came out of the factory. So I like cars that have not been messed with. I like original cars if you can get them. Some of them they're not bitses. They're nice old cars, but they're not good enough to keep the way they are. Now that Duesenberg over there's got 14,000 miles on it, and it's original paint and original upholstery, and nothing has ever changed on it. Same way with the Packard town car that belonged to Mrs. Bronfman. It's original paint, original tires still on the spare. That's the kind you want to find. More cars were built in Indiana, different makes of cars were built in Indiana than any other state in the Union. There were, I want to say 158 different makes of cars that were built in the state of Indiana. Every town had somebody building the car. I don't know what it is about, it was either the farmers or the machinery out there that they all wanted to build a car. And Indianapolis was the car capital of the United States. The best cars in the world were built in Indianapolis. The Cole Motor Car Company's still there, the building's still there, the Duesenberg building is still there where they store the buses in Indianapolis. The Stutz factory is still there. It's reborn as an artist colony, and he's done a great job with that. So there's just, if you go up around Indianapolis, it's hard not to see a great big old factory that wasn't building cars at one time. The most fun is working on them, bringing them back, making them alive again, because a lot of these cars, most of them, more than half of them had not run in 30 years. They've just been sitting somewhere with flat tires. And so you try to, it's kind of like an artist, and you make something when you can see something that's done. I don't like to play golf. I don't understand. My wife loves it. I do not understand hitting a ball going in a hole, it makes you really feel good. That doesn't do a thing for me. And if I'm going to do something, I want to see when it's done and what all that work, there's something there that you see that think, oh, that's pretty, I did that. It's kind of like, it's a painting in a way. I like anything before the war, because I think the quality of vehicles about 1940 started to go downhill until it got into the 70s where they weren't even drivable hardly. And so anything before the wars has really high quality in it. So I like those. The marquees, although I just bought a 1912 Model T, which was the cheapest car you could buy. I think it's really cute. I tend to like the bigger, older, higher quality with really good craftsmanship that when you work on them, it's a lot more fun to work on something that's really put together well than something that's mass produced and stamped out and you can't fix it. So Rolls-Royce, and I used to work for Rolls-Royce when I was in high school. There was a dealership in Indianapolis, and we'd go take cars like that in on trade. And I'd have to go get them and drive them back. I remember driving a 1925 Rolls-Royce back from West Virginia that a guy traded in on a new car. This was Kalusko Bankian's car, and It stayed the Ritz Hotel all its life in Paris. That's the other thing about this hobby. The history that you get to find, and you can just keep digging and digging and digging until you get the original owner. And then you find out there are books written about these people, and what went on in the back of that car was, you probably couldn't talk about a lot.